tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. America, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javanokelo, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.
Thank you so much for joining me for another incredible session of the African Father in America podcast. I am excited for today's conversation here in the African Father in America Club. We are actually live on Clubhouse and we are also live on YouTube. And today I have an amazing guest joining me all the way from Nairobi, Kenya. And we are going to have an amazing conversation that is grounded on an African proverb. Our proverb today is from Mali, and I'm going to share it in just a second. Maybe I'll let my guest say hello briefly.
Thank you, Simon. Hi, everyone. My name is Vincent Mwangi, and I am the Community-Led Partnerships Lead at Mama Hope, and I am based in Nairobi, Kenya. And thank you for taking the time to join us. I am excited to having this thought-provoking conversation. And particularly, I'm grateful for AFIAPodcast for the great job and creating this space where we get to talk about issues that are rarely talked about. And so I'm so much excited and grateful to be around and being present in these podcasts, and I look forward to interacting more and getting to learn from each other. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm also really excited to host you here today, Vincent, especially because you've been one of the driving forces behind Mama Hope in Africa, in Kenya, and I really commend you for the amazing work that you're doing. And so I'll share our proverb from Mali. It says that a rooster is not expected to crow for the whole world. A rooster is not expected to crow for the whole world. If you're watching this on YouTube, share with us your thoughts in the comments. We are going to start the Clubhouse room in just a moment here. I am noticing that we haven't started there, so we'll start in a moment. For now, I want to share the proverb again. A rooster is not expected to crow for the whole world. When you hear this proverb, what is it that comes to your mind? Now, I want to share the 3 nuggets of wisdom that are related to this proverb. My team and I picked these 3 nuggets of wisdom because we felt that they are really some of the 3 lessons that we can all learn potentially from this proverb. So I'll share them quickly. Let Vincent also speak about his own interpretation of the proverb, and then I will start the Clubhouse room. So the first nugget of wisdom says that don't try to please everyone. It's so tempting. It's so tempting when you have people around you that are difficult to work with. It's easy to fall into the habit of just constantly pleasing people, but we are being advised by this proverb that we should not do that. Number 2, you can't control what others do or think, so focus on what you can control. Focus on what you can control. And then number 3 is do your best and be proud of your accomplishments, even if they are not recognized by others. There's a saying, and this is a popular saying. I've heard it lately from Eliud Kipchoge, who is the greatest marathon runner of all time, and he says that the worst thing to do is to lie to yourself. You should always be honest to yourself. So the things that you honestly cannot control, don't even worry about them. You can't control what people say about you. So just stay focused, work hard, and know what you're putting in whatever endeavor that is in front of you. So as usual, I want to bring on my special guest today so that we can also understand this proverb from your own perspective, Vincent. I want to give you an opportunity so that you can introduce yourself even a little more. Just quickly the work that you do at Mama Hope, and also your own interpretation of this proverb. When we sent it to you, what is it that came up for you?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And so my role at Mama Hope as a community-led partnerships lead entails working with our partners. I'm the one who leads all our partnerships in Africa, and I do also support our partnerships in Guatemala, in Central America. And so what I do is I ensure that our partners have access to unrestricted funding, as well as they get the needed programmatic support to ensure that their organizations are moving forward. And also at Mama Hope, we also I also do support in other areas where need be. And so it's just my main role in the organization is just ensuring that our partners' needs are at the forefront of everything that the organization does. And when we talk of the proverb, first of all, I just have to say that it's such an interesting proverb because I haven't heard of it again, and so it was an amazing opportunity for me to learn something, and it was quite thought provoking again because I realized. So I was looking at it, and if you look at a rooster, it's more of a residential bird. Like you'll always find it in the homesteads, and that's quite common, especially in African households. And so when you think of the proverb and looking at the rooster being a residential, or rather a homestead bird, and my interpretation to it was that you have to know your limits, and you have to know that you are creating impact in the smallest way possible, because in as much as a rooster is found within the limits of a homestead or a residential area, you find that it creates deep impact within that locality, and we do not expect it in any way to be of like to be heard all over. And so connecting it to ourselves as human beings, it is important for us to have limits when it comes to whatever we do. We need to know that we have our own strengths, and we also have our own weaknesses, and we also have our limits when it comes to ways in which we push ourselves. And so what I learned from that is that you really need to take things slowly, and you also need to appreciate the little things that you do, even in life, knowing that as best as you're trying, you're creating impact within your own jurisdiction, for instance. So yeah, that was my interpretation of the proverb.
Excellent. I love it. Vincent, I want you to hold on for a moment. We have a few other special guests and speakers that are going to contribute to our session today. Wednesdays are always poetry sessions here in the African Father in America podcast. So we have our amazing resident poet, Chioma, and we also have our wonderful sister Simply E, who is also an amazing poet that joins us every Wednesday. So I want to create space for Chioma to also briefly share her own perspective on this proverb. And Chioma, if you feel ready, this would be a good time for you to also share with us the poem. Then we'll come back to Vincent and dive deep into your story, Vincent. I want you to think about this now. I always share with guests that join me here in the African Father in America podcast my own story of when I was 8 years old. I think you being in Kenya and having grown or having heard of how people live in the slum. I grew up in Manyata, which is one of the worst slums in the country. And by the time I was 8, I had a bicycle. I was distributing milk and bread in the neighborhood. So, navigating through all the gangs and what's going on in Kenya right now with the insecurity and all of that. That's normal in Manyata. It's like, it's no news, but I grew up living with all those people, So think about your own story of what is it that happened when you are a little younger that really drives who you are, because your responsibility at Mama Hope now is huge. And so I'll keep you in there muted for a second while we hear from Chioma Shiri, who is a gifted and talented writer and poet. Chioma, how are you?
I'm fine, Simon. Can you hear me okay?
Fantastic. I hear you very, very loud and clear. Very loud and clear.
Yay. Awesome.
Yeah, we missed you last week. Share with us how you
I
are.
missed y'all too.
Yeah, nice.
I
nice.
am good. I'm just hoping that the Wi-Fi and stuff stays strong. Currently in Nigeria, but I'm good. I am good. Thanks, Simon. I'm just happy to be back in the space. Sorry I missed y'all last week, but Simply E, like, thank you so much for reading my interpretation and the poem so beautifully. Like, I went back and listened to some of the replay and I just heard Simply E reading and I was like, oh, this is so beautiful. I was like, that's exactly how I would have wanted it to be read. So thank you all so much for still like bringing my voice into the space, even though I wasn't there last week. I really do appreciate it.
Of course. The poem you sent was so enticing. I was so tempted to read it, and then Simply came, and I was like, Simply can read it better than me, so I have to give up. Anyway, so for those who are meeting Chioma for the first time, Chioma takes these proverbs and literally turns them into a poem. So, Chioma, if you want to share your interpretation and then share the poem, that's great. If you want to just share the poem, that's also great. But now that you said you're in Nigeria today, I want to know where in Nigeria and whether you're just visiting or family or
Yeah,
what.
kind of just visiting family stuff. But I'm in Abuja right now.
Wonderful.
So the capital, pretty much, yeah.
This is what Wakanda does to people. You watch Wakanda, then you find yourself in Nigeria. I'm joking.
You're so funny. I have not watched it yet. I need to watch it though.
Excellent.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
All right, so I'll start first with my interpretation. I came in at the tail end of Vincent. I'm like, oh my God, he was saying so much good stuff. But my interpretation, so this proverb for me, like, it speaks to the importance of making impact where you are, using and focusing your voice on your community. So that could be your family, your neighborhood, your village, your city, but like the people that are close to you. I think like oftentimes people like put pressure on themselves to have to be like heard by everybody or seen by everybody or liked by everybody. And I know personally that sometimes I can even get in that trap where I forget that those around me and like the community I have made is my world and like is valuable and important. And that like I don't need to, nor is it expected of me to be everybody and everywhere. So this proverb kind of brings me back to center, brings me back to my community. And the thing about like a rooster is like the crow is like really big and powerful. Like I remember I was at my aunt's house in California and I heard like the rooster in the morning. I'm like, where in the world is a rooster around here? Where is it? And she was telling me, she was like, yeah, it's like a house like few blocks down. And I'm like, few blocks, like, and that little rooster could be heard. Um, so to me, like it also speaks like to the fact that like your power isn't like limited by like how far your crow reaches, you know? So it doesn't matter if you have like 1,000 followers or two or whatever. Like your crow, your voice, your impact matters and is still big and is still powerful. And like the last thing, I don't necessarily have like anything to quite like say on it, but like I'm sort of like meditating on the idea too. Um, Rooster is sort of like categorized as sort of like the male chicken. So that kind of like gave me something to like meditate on and sometimes too. Meditate on something too. But yeah, that's my interpretation. And I will go into the poem. Give me one second. All right, you guys can still hear me?
Yes, we can. We are now
Okay.
salivating for that poem.
Oh, you're so funny. Okay. All right. So the poem, here we go. It's okay that they don't hear you across the water. They can hear you across the street, across the room, across the table. Your voice resonates right here. Your voice is needed right here. Anywhere you are, with anyone you meet, your words, they carry over further than you could carry them yourself. You need not carry the world on your back. Don't lose your voice screaming to be heard by everybody. Don't lose yourself screaming to be heard by everybody. We see you. We hear you. You got us. We got you. We got us. That's the poem.
Wow, wow, wow. That's so incredible, so incredible. Simply, E, I want you to just speak a bit in response to the poem, and then I will say a few things as we bring on Vincent, our special guest.
Chioma, I love that piece. You know what? I have to be really technical because you just said you don't need that, you don't need this, you don't need that. And I think that's the most important piece is people sometimes we make things that we want into a need in our minds. And then we have to get down to the psychology of that thing, right? Even to say, why would I want that? Even, if we meditate on it for a moment, those questions will start coming and we'll start going down a rabbit hole. But what you've done is started the rabbit hole because you're saying, you don't need that. You don't need that. So then a person would take a step back and say, either what do I need or why don't I need? And so I think that it's very profound in the fact that the rabbit hole is there and a person can actually find the bottom of that if they keep asking those questions upon questions. And so thank you for the journey that you put inside of the poem.
That's
Thank you,
beautiful.
Simply E. I always love your your responses to the poem. I always feel like I have more notes to take, so thank you so much.
Thank you. And it was a pleasure reading your piece from last week as well.
Yeah, it's always really a privilege to have two poets every Wednesday because I don't know what I would be doing in response to these poems because they're all just good. But to have an amazing poet in you, Simply E, just being present to support Chioma, but also say a few things about the poems Chioma has been bringing to us, really go a long way. I want to quickly give a shout out to Eric Aluru, who was our guest yesterday. And I have to say that since I began interviewing some of the leaders from across Africa, especially who are benefiting from the work of Mama Hope, I have really become more motivated because I know I'm not alone in this work. The work you do, Eric, over there in Kisumu is much appreciated. And also to everyone who is watching on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, this is a good time for you to do that. And also make sure you give this video a thumbs up. If you are on Clubhouse, thank you so much. Simply, do you just want to tell everyone on Clubhouse what they could do to support?
Absolutely. If you want to see faces, go to YouTube and subscribe because then you'll be able to see everything live in that space. I think that's pretty dope. We're, of course, I'm joining from the space of Clubhouse. So if you have some input and you're on Clubhouse, or even if you're not, it's easy to get on Clubhouse. And you can actually give some input in the space, which I think is pretty cool, right? Being able to say, oh, I enjoyed this space. I can give some input. Tell your friends, hey, I was actually on a podcast today. And I think that's a pretty cool experience. So if you've never done that before, I think that would be a good space to step out and do something nice like that. Bring your friends along. So if you've got people that would enhance the space or that you think would be able to get something out of the space, for sure, invite them as well. And in the mornings, if you want to just get a head start, be sure to follow on Instagram as well, so that you're able to see, kind of what's up there. You can give input that way. And as you're subscribing on YouTube, you can give feedback also in the comments. I think that's pretty cool also. You can tweet it out, just kind of wherever you're comfortable at. You can pull some other people in, or you can give input as well. So I think just being comfortable where you are and being able to participate in that space wherever you are is pretty cool. But like I said, I think a lot of people are missing out on the factor of, hey, I could actually give some input to the world, because I can hop on stage, maybe in Clubhouse, give some input and be on a podcast. That's pretty cool. So if you're part of family like we are in here, or want to be part of the family, come join us. Thank you,
Excellent.
Simon.
Of course. Thank you again. Just quickly, I want to also give a shout out to Masha Mutisi, who was our guest last week, and is doing amazing work in Zimbabwe and in the Zimbabwean community here in Seattle. Thank you for joining us. Now, Vincent, I want to bring this to you. You're not running away from that answer. Okay, go ahead, Vincent.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And so, going back into my childhood story that has really shaped whom I am today, I'd start by saying that I was born and raised in Nairobi, and over the years, since I came to this earth, I've seen how the city has transformed and how the city has grown. And over while I was young, it's quite unfortunate that I grew up seeing the kind of inequalities. People, especially the people who lived in informal settlements, or who were basically in contributing to the informal economy, how they were marginalized. And this happens to be like, I did have some family members who were also impacted by some of these decisions by the government. And so I remember, because my mother used to have a business in Westlands. For those people who know Westlands, it's over time the area has grown to a point where now it's some form of a business district. But then back then, it never used to be as it is today. And so um, she was also affected, especially when we got a new government in 2002 under President Moi Kibaki. And so the government was really doing a lot of transformation in terms of like trying to like beautify the city, as well as expand roads for investors to come into Kenya, and make Kenya more investor friendly and attractive. And so I grew up seeing those kind of marginalization. And one thing that I kept on asking myself is, why is it a certain group of people who are always treated in this manner? Because also I went to school in Westlands, and along our school there's a road called School Lane, and there's this guy who used to sell mangoes to us during the mango season, and he used to sell them at 1 shilling. And so he was a small scale trader, and he always used to come to sell the mangoes after classes. And I remember there's a time it was actually even on news when he was chased away, because even the police were brought to chase him away, because apparently he was said to be selling drugs to kids. But then I kept on wondering why, because he did have like, I tend to believe, because I used to see other people who would sell ice cream. Again, also like if you'd go to town, you'd see how hawkers would be tear gassed because they are selling by the roadside. And so I kept on wondering why a certain group of people, or rather people contributing, just working to gain some livelihood, why they were treated in this way. And so I went to campus at the University of Nairobi with still the quest to understand ways in which I can be of support to the community or my people, especially people in the grassroots level. And so I did international studies, and at the university, still I didn't feel like I was getting the kind of knowledge, not really knowledge, but really doing that. It wasn't really within the passion that I was looking to, working with people directly. And so one thing I didn't really enjoy was how, especially how lost there was lost touch between the real things that are happening within communities and within like people that especially that were being discussed. Because like for instance, we normally used to have forums. I used to attend a lot of forums about let's say war in South Sudan, and we'd have these experts that would come around discussing issues and ways of like ending the war. But so many at times they used to happen in five-star hotels in Nairobi. And so it never used to happen where the people, where the war is happening, like engaging the communities or like talking to them and getting to know what are the real issues that you people are facing and how do you think we can be able to tackle these issues. And so with that, still, I didn't feel like I was contributing to society as I had aspired to before. And so before I graduated from university, I started my internship at Mama Hope, and I started working with programs. Basically, what we have right now is the community-led partnerships program, and I was so much inspired to see um, the kind of impact that was taking place at the grassroots level. And this is the reason why and this is something I really wanted to from the beginning, because I wanted real change, to see real change and work with people who are contributing positively to society. And so with that, I feel like growing up in Nairobi and seeing the kind of marginalization and mistreatment of people, especially within the informal sector and the informal economy, how governments have sidelined them over the years, is something that has pushed me and shaped whom I am today. Because I still want to work with communities, I still want to work with people at the grassroots level, and I still want to work in be in spaces that bring real positive change in the world.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Vincent. I appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing, these small stories that make really the story of why you do what you do today. So I deeply appreciate it. I want to just quickly recognize my wonderful friend Carol Ndosi, who is listening in. Carol, Mama, hope that we are interviewing one of the leaders is also doing great work in Tanzania. So I think you and Vincent need to connect. Hopefully I can make that happen. If you're just joining us, my special guest today is Vincent Mwangi. He's in Nairobi, Kenya, and we are having a conversation. Right now we are talking about Vincent's story, but we are just about to get into the work that he does with Mama Hope, but especially a campaign that is currently going on that they are spearheading, that is called Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is. And I feel that this is something really relevant, especially during this week where we had COP27, during this week where Jeff Bezos gave Dolly Parton $100 million just as a sign of good gesture, while we have an amazing organization that serves so many people around the world that is currently only looking for $100,000, So I think it's a good time for us to talk. Vincent, share with us, what exactly makes you proud of what you do at Mama Hope, and then talk to us a little more about Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is.
Yeah, thank you. So I'd say a lot more, because I've said that I've shared that I've been in the organization since as an intern. I started out as an intern, and over the years, one thing I've been so proud of, um, uh, Mama Hope is the model, and our model at Mama Hope is the community-led development model. And this is a model that centers community and places them at the forefront. And the model also aspires to give community leaders the power to shape their own vision and ensure that they are able to contribute to their communities positively. And I, as someone who's worked at Mama Hope for all those years, I've seen how much as a team we've been working towards learning and ensuring that we are able um, to walk our talk, if I'd say that. Because if you look at the community-led development model, I'd say it's a model that many of the practitioners in the international development sector have shied away. And when I say they've shied away from it, is from the real or from a practical perspective. Because a few last month we did have an event where we were celebrating 10 years of the community-led development model, and we were trying to show people that our model is more than a buzzword. Because if you look at majority of the organizations, or rather majority of what's happening within the sector, it's become more of a buzzword where people are just talking about people are just talking about cool stuff, which are so good on paper, but if you look at them in real sense, it's something that's really not happening. And at Mama Hope, we've really tried to be to ensure that we are able to work with our partners and be there for them and work with them through the journey. We do understand the challenges, especially for partners, especially the ones in the global south. And when I talk of global south, I'm basically talking about our partners in Guatemala and our partners in Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, in what we call sub-Saharan Africa. And we do know the challenges that partners face, and it's something that during my conversations with them, I normally they normally share. And so Mama Hope has really tried to be there to for partners and to understand them and to be able to work with them throughout this journey and work with them in building systems that do work for the communities and ensuring that partners remain at the center and ensure that they still voice or rather they still own their voices. And so that's something that I'm still proud of at Mama Hope, being at Mama Hope. And put your money where your mouth is campaign is something. I'm just going to give a little bit of a background in regards to um, various things that have shaped the international development sector to a point where we are at right now. Because when you talk about put your money where your mouth is, we are literally calling the development partners to walk their talk, as I said earlier. And what I mean by that is, if you look at the international development sector, it's really come through. It's had a long journey. That's what I'd say, and it's had a long journey for both communities in the global south and also for the donor countries, basically countries in the west. And if you look at, let's say, how the beginnings of the international development sector, they've you'd find that during it all started after the Second World War. It's been there for quite a long time, but its formalization really started after the Second World War with the rebuilding of the world after the war. And like, we had the Marshall Plan with the United States, and then later on, few years later, we did have countries, especially African countries, gain independence. And so the way the sector was shaped over the years, I feel like it's really evolved over time. And there are certain things that we still see that were happening, or rather the mindset that was happening back then. Because if you look at the global development sector as it is right now and how it was before, is that its beginnings, especially working with African countries, was to it was to help these countries that are rebuilding these countries that have just gained independence. Because, like, if you look from 1960s, there was this wave of independence within Africa, and so you find that majority of the organizations from back then, because even for us in Kenya, when we gained independence from Britain, our inaugural speech by the first president was one of the goals that Kenya was working towards was eradication of poverty, ignorance, and disease. And one thing that I keep on asking myself till today is, what's the end goal of the international development sector? What is the end goal? What are we working towards? What are some of the things? What are the interventions that we want to bring upon communities, and how are we doing that? Because if you look at majority of, like, what or the practices that have been there within the development sector, it's been fighting towards ensuring that the dignity and the independence of community is respected and maintained. Because over time we've seen, like, when and this is like when I was growing up, when poverty porn was the thing. There's a time in within the international development sector where showing images of poverty, images of drought-stricken kids or people was a selling point. And over time, we've seen communities being like, this is not our story. We have positive things happening within our community. And if at Mama Hope, we've also had, like, campaigns talking about where we've talked about ethical media through our Stop the Pity campaign, which I'd really encourage people to go and watch and look and find videos on YouTube. Because one thing is that we really wanted to show that communities have the potential, and the only thing that they lack is the resources for them to unlock these potential. And so one thing, when you talk about the put your money where your mouth is, it's a higher advocacy, or it's hard term it is that we really want to have international development partners um, channel more resources to communities, because as studies have shown, a lot of money does not get to, like, national organizations. I was just reading an article the other day about a foundation. It's a United States, it's an American foundation, and a staff member was being interviewed in that. It was a report, and the staff member, and they were saying that the term localization has been there for, like, it's the term localization, which is another buzzword that is existing right now within the international development sector, has been there for 30 years. And 30 years, that means since 1992 that people started talking about localization. And the reason why localization hasn't been able to be achieved, it's because of the kind of system where we work in. Like, majority of the organizations do not want to change based on the principles of localization. And when you talk about the principles of localization, is letting organizations or community leaders be at the center stage, having access to unrestricted funding, and also being able to, like, showing the positive narrative, or the sharing positive voices within the community. And so if someone says that localization has been there for 30 years, it shows that there's a lot of things that there's a lot of potential held within the international development sector. It's only that people are not ready to give, or rather trust, community leaders, uh, or even with the resources, because, as we've always said that local leaders know they have solutions to their problems. It's only that they do not have the resources. And so, again, we've said again and again that Africa does not need aid. We need investments. And so, with all these things, the Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is campaign is just calling upon development partners to give communities a chance to steer, or rather shape, their own futures, because we've done that and we've seen that it works. And we've seen the kind of impact that can be achieved when communities are left, or are let to drive their own development agendas. So, yeah, it's just upon for the international development sector to just walk the talk, and just let communities shape their own development agenda.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. I love it. I hosted Judy Jane Bodhi, one of your colleagues, last week. She was in Australia when we were talking. Is it no New Zealand, right? New Zealand, somewhere
No,
very very far away.
it's Australia.
Okay, great. Anyway, so I asked her, if you had an opportunity to sit with some of these big organizations that are putting their money in the wrong place. I called out Jeff Bezos earlier, because he literally did it this week. Imagine that $100 million if it was put in my hands. I think I would do the right things with it. Dolly Parton is already a millionaire. What is she going to do with that? Maybe just distribute it to distribute it to the similar projects that people do for for the purpose of photos and media and all of that. And also most of that money is probably going to be spent here in the US or somewhere in Europe, and maybe it's actually 100,000 that is actually going to get to to Africa or the developing world. So I just think it's a game that these people are playing. These people are just trying to pay less taxes. If you look at how someone like Jeff Bezos pays his taxes, very little. But for us, it's a matter of survival. It's a matter of survival. This message that is related to where money needs to be spent is also a matter of reparation. There's so much injustices that have happened historically that can be corrected or repaired through this process of aid, if it's done in a way that it's trade, not aid. So I want you to pick maybe one or two organizations that if you are sitting in a conference room with them, you tell them, hey, this needs to change.
Simon, I won't do,
I know.
I won't call out any organization, but one thing I'd say is that they know themselves. Um, yes. So,
But listen,
uh,
this is part of the problem. This is part of the problem because a lot of us, including me, I always criticize. I always say things behind the scene, behind closed doors. But if I was sitting with Bill Gates, will I tell him the truth? Because these people are human beings. They listen to podcasts, they read blogs. But if nobody is willing to actually tell them that, hey, this money could have been spent appropriately. Even if you don't get funding for 5 years from them, somebody else will actually fund you for being courageous and saying the right thing. But you don't have to, because I know that your job could be on the line. I know that you have to safeguard other things. But then what's the point in doing a campaign called put your money where your mouth is if you can't actually talk to those people that are not putting their money where their mouth is? That's something to also think about, and also think about, like, who am I really trying to address here? It's really really important that we think about that. But I want you to take a moment and listen to some of the contributions that our friends who joined us for the show are going to share today. And let me know what you think. I want you to reflect on some of the things that are going to be shared here in a moment. And also, I want you to share with us, what can we do to support you and Mama Hope, towards the end of this show. So think about the website where you want us to go and whether you want us to contribute to the campaign. I'll come to you, Simply E. Share with us your own reflections on this entire conversation, and also share with us, your thoughts on this proverb. Chioma, I haven't forgotten about you.
Um, so a rooster is not expected to crow for the whole world. Um, so I've actually been woken up by roosters before. And it's, of course, when you first start hearing it, depending on whether you're a child or not, or if it's just an experience that you've never had before, and all of a sudden you're getting it. At first, you're like, oh, this is beautiful. Yay. And then you start figuring out that the rooster not only crows in the morning, And not only that, but tomorrow you might want to wake up a little bit later, but the roosters, they're waking you up. So the thing about it is, when you talk about that, everybody is on a different schedule, depending on what their agenda is, what they have to do, how they prioritize things, how much rest they got the night before. Um, so saying a rooster is not expected to crow for the whole world is very appropriate because we're not on the same schedule. We don't have the same agenda. We don't have the same priorities. So just having an alarm set for a certain time doesn't give credence or importance to everybody. It's local, it's right there where you are at the time and appropriate for that moment, hopefully. So that's kind of what I got out of the proverb for today, is that you really have to use discernment in a moment to know if something that's just important to you, if it's important to other people also.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Simply E. Hey, Lavender, how are you doing? Where are you joining us? And what are your own perspectives on this proverb that we are discussing today?
Hi, Simon. This is Lavender. I'm speaking from Nairobi, Kenya. My thoughts about today's proverb: a rooster is not expected to crow for the whole world. What comes to mind is that charity begins at home. A home can be your own soul or yourself. And when we hear about roosters, roosters are usually meant from long time ago, traditionally, to give reminders of certain change in time, in seasons, and it's like a symbol of that reminds us to make the difference when we feel like we need to change something, we need to work on it from within, and then expand it to our community, and change goes from one person at a time. Thank you, Simon. This is Lavender, and I'm done speaking.
Thank you so much, Lavender, for your time and your amazing contribution. Hey, Steve, how are you? And what are your thoughts on this proverb?
I'm very well, Simon. Thank you for having me. And thank you to our guest for being part of this session. What comes to my mind when I look at this proverb first is reflecting back the significance of roaster in our homesteads, and the role that a roasters plays just besides the crow. But then also the other thing that comes to my mind is, see, in many homes, if you don't hear your rooster crows, then you must be worried, and you start questioning the ability of your rooster. So what comes to my mind is that we shouldn't be silent if we have the potential to save a situation. We should not be afraid to crow. We should just speak out and speak as loud as we can. That's what really comes to my mind when I read this proverb. Thank you, Simon. That was my time.
Thank you so much, Steve. I love that. I love that. I appreciate you being here. Brother Earth, how are you doing? And what are your perspectives on the proverb?
Peace and love, family. It's Brother Earth. I'm coming from the North Carolina territory. Hey, and Simon, help me to understand this if I'm correct. It seemed, I got a lot going on in the background, but it seemed to me that he made a comment that a lot of the big organizations, the guest speaker said, a lot of the big organizations, they've been saying that they want to help localizate, want to start localizing stuff for 30 years, but they not really putting their money up there. That's what they saying, but their money not following the same thing, and that's where to put your money where your mouth campaign is. Is that what did I hear that correctly?
That's correct. That's correct. And there are so many strategies to accomplish this. There is holding these big organizations and these individuals accountable publicly, having campaigns like this where they're just told but they're actually, no, it's not put in their face. I like putting things to people's face because these people bring poverty to our faces all the time. I've seen people I know living in abject poverty. I've lived in abject poverty, so I'm not afraid to actually bring the truth to people's faces. And I would love to have dinner with Jeff Bezos and actually show him where to put his money, and even Bill Gates. But there are fewer. First of all, by the time you have a chance to do that, it takes a lot of work. But the more we talk about it, the more they will see a need to actually meet the people who have a good understanding of the challenges that we are facing. Yes, brother Earth, it's a big problem. It's a game. It's an industrial complex.
That's powerful. You say that, Simon. And not only did I hear the brother say it today, but one of the other brothers from Mother Hope also made mention is Africa need investments and not aid. And the other brother said it in a way he was like, where they need aid and they don't need nobody to be like a godfather or a pimp over them with the money. In so many words, and you know what it made me reflect and think about this. It's an old proverb says that if you give a man fish, you feed him for a day, but if you teach him how to fish, he can fish for a lifetime. And I worked for a guy. He used to like to have people. I used to tell him, "Give me my money. I can take care of my own bills. Let me do what I need to do." And as we progress, I need increase to be able to maintain more stuff like this. Anyway, he used to like for the dudes at the job to come get money from him during the week, borrow money out their check and stuff like that. Like he basically he wanted them. He preferred to give people fish when he had the opportunity to teach them how to fish. That way they would be dependent upon him, and that's the same thing that those big companies are doing when they do like that with the money. They rather give you fish than to teach you how to fish or allow you to fish on your own. And that's what I say to that. But as far as the proverb goes, uh, and I think a lot of people already spoke to it. It reminds me of a saying that all politics are local. See, like even in the United States, they say they have federal laws and stuff like that, but certain states or certain areas in certain regions, the federal laws don't apply. Like you say, some places the federal laws they got to do with marijuana don't apply. Some places the federal law of prostitution don't apply. Gambling, it all according to who is being spoke for. So with that being said, I would say the proverb also speaks to one person can't speak for the whole of everybody. It's exceptions to the rule, and we have to be mindful of these nuances. And I'll park my plane right there, brother Earth. Peace and love, family.
Thank you, Brother Arthur. I deeply appreciate that. Let's hear from Kiden briefly. I just want to recognize Happily Peaceful, another wonderful, leader that actually helped build the foundation for this show. Hopefully, you can join us and say hi quickly. Kiden, let's hear from you briefly. What are your thoughts on this proverb?
Thank you, Simon. Hi, everyone. I'm Keaton, joining you from South Florida. I concur with everyone and everything they said about the proverb. For me, I think about activism and how, like, if you're an advocate or activist in your community, like, you're not expected to pick up other issues everywhere. And I think particularly for Africans, sometimes when things are happening in our communities, we're very loud about that. And then some people are saying, "Oh, well, what about us? And what about us?" And it's like we can't be the voice for the whole world. So it's just a reminder for me. And I wanted to say that I enjoyed Chioma's poem and look forward to more. Thank you.
Fantastic. Speaking of Chioma, I want to bring you on Chioma so that you can speak to, just reflect on everything you just had briefly before you come on to Vincent. And really, Chioma, also let us know, how did we do today? You are one of those people who have also been very, very consistent, and you can measure the heartbeat of how this thing went today. Hey Chioma, just let me allow Happily Peaceful to say something because I haven't heard from him in a long time. Happily, just go ahead briefly.
Thank you very much, Simon. It is lovely to see the group still going on, the family still going on, the tribe still going on, and everything that is being done by you is just, and also the family, Chioma, I see you, Simply E, and also some familiar faces. It's an honor to be back to Clubhouse and also specifically to this room. I am grateful for everything and the labor of love you pour for this family that we created, or rather that you created, and I helped with the little that I could do. I wish you all the best, and I can't wait to continue participating and joining the family back again and seeing what's new and what's happening. Uh, we say bizu bizu, kisses to everyone, bizu bizu, and yeah, I was unprepared for anything much more.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. Hey Chioma, take it from here.
Sorry, Simon. Yeah, the the internet went out because the generator went off for a sec. But I'm back.
That's great. That's
Can you
great.
hear me, Simon?
I hear you very well. I hear you very well. Go ahead.
Okay, good, good, good. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm just gonna give just comment on all the things that I heard. Starting with Vincent, I caught the tail end of your interpretation, and you said it is important for us to know we have limits. We have our own strengths. Take things slowly and appreciate the little things that you do. And when you were talking, some of the points that I thought really hit me was when you said, "What's the end goal of international development?" Like, I just thought that was a really powerful question. You said Africa doesn't need aid, it needs investment. Let communities shape their own development. And I thought that really tied into the proverb so well. And brother actually kind of hit on it. And he said our politics are local. One person can't speak for the whole of everybody, and we got to be conscious. So when you said let communities let communities do it themselves, just invest in communities and let them do their own, their own work, that really just tied into we can't come to a community and try to say, oh, you need this, or we're going to do this. So yeah, I just thought it was really in line with the proverb today. Simply E, you said we aren't on the same schedule. We don't have the same agenda, don't have the same values. Use discernment in the moment to know if what is important to you is important to for everyone else. And I hope that also aligns so much with what Vincent and Brother Earth shared as well. Lavender, you said charity begins at home. Change goes from one person at a time. And you talked about how change has to start within first. Steve, you said we shouldn't be silent if we are able to change a situation. We should speak out. And that really hit me personally. So thank you for saying that. And Keaton, you said for activism, you aren't expected to pick up issues everywhere. You can't be the voice for the whole world. And that gave me some peace because I know sometimes there's just so much stuff going on in the world, and you're like, I want to do this, I want to support this, and it's just not even possible. So those are the takeaways that I got. I missed what you said, Simon. I came in a little late, so I didn't catch what you heard. What you
Yeah.
said.
Well, I'll just joke and say that what Steve said about if you're a if you are a rooster and you don't crow, especially in my tribe, you could actually be sold or you could be slaughtered, So you have to really use your
Whoa.
voice. Yeah. It's very dangerous. If you are a rooster, you have to do your job. Otherwise, people will start talking that what kind of rooster is this? Let's go and sell it in the market so that the whole neighborhood does not know that we have a rooster that never crows. Okay, Vincent. First of all, I want to thank you all for just listening in. We've been here for exactly 1 hour, and now, Vincent, I want you to close this with what is it that we can do? What actions can we take to support you? And I want you to know that I'm very proud of you. Long time ago, I used to be the field director for Africa. I worked in about 6 different countries for a big NGO, and I was very, very proud of the impact I was having at that time across the continent. And I feel that you are in such a position right now where you are, working with so many people that I've interviewed here from Rwanda, from Uganda, Tanzania, and even outside of the continent. So keep up the good work and continue bringing other people up as you continue growing in your leadership. So close it out for us, please.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. Um, to close it up, I think one thing I'd really like to encourage everyone who's listening in or watching live to just take some minute and learn about the community-led development model, and also unlearn so many stereotypes that majority of our community leaders have faced, because there's too much, especially when it comes to trust, when it comes to resources. We've seen so many international organizations, especially Western based organizations, not trusting communities, and these infiltrates into the wider, like some of our African countries. So you find that people have a different perspective of people who work in the NGO sector, thinking, oh, there's money, oh, the reason why development isn't, or like things are not changing within the community yet they've been fundraising, it's because they've probably misappropriated the funds. And so I'd encourage anyone who's listening and you are from any African countries or like the global south, to go and just unlearn so many of the stereotypes that community leaders have been imposed on, especially when it comes to resources. And also, the other thing I'd also encourage people is to appreciate their communities and be there, or rather contribute to their communities in one way or the other. Because if your community doesn't perform well, or if your community doesn't do well, it affects each and every one of us. It doesn't matter whether you have a formal job, you have an office job, 9 to 5, you work in the corporate sector. If your community is not excelling, or people in your community are still facing challenges, it's going to affect you in one way or the other. So one thing I'd like to encourage everyone, or let everyone know, is that anything to do with the community, anything to do with community development impacts each and every one of us, and its prosperity is something that's going to benefit all of us. And so just believe in your communities, be part of the community, support your leaders, and ensure that you're playing a role. Because if you think something doesn't affect you, it really does affect you in very many indirect ways. And for people to contribute, like how you can contribute to the Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is campaign. First of all, we do have our online presence. You can find us on Instagram as Mama Hope. You can find us on Facebook, again on the same name, Twitter. And also we do have a website, www.mamahope.org. And we do have a link on our Instagram bio that leads you to our Classy page, where you can contribute. And just so you know, when you make a contribution, you are not only contributing to an organization, but you're contributing to to a whole community. You're contributing to a local. You're investing in the economy of a local community. So take your time and check and visit our online pages, and there in it you can find links that we've put there where you can send your donations. And also I'd like to thank Simon for challenging me again. I'm just thinking about it right now, and thank you for that. I feel like it's one of the weaknesses I have, and so I think, yeah, I'm going to improve on that. But thank
It's
you so
not a
much
weakness,
for
yeah.
having me here. Yeah,
Yeah, of course, man. It's not a weakness. It's something that I could not do when I was in your position. Right now I'm self-employed. I'm working for myself, so there are a lot of things I can say without being afraid. Because nobody is going to knock at my door or send me an email about what I said. But I have to say that we have to have more people talking directly to these people that we are trying to address. Otherwise, we are just we are not. Our message is not reaching the people that it's intended for. And for me, my daughters also listen to this podcast, and they are going to challenge me. They're going to say, "So, Daddy, who are these people that are not doing the right thing? Who are they?" Because children don't care. They just want you to actually demonstrate to them that there is a solution, And if there is a solution, and this is why you find that teenagers are leading the climate change mitigation effort. Look at COP27. It was young people, Gen Zs, who are more courageous than us because they know what is at stake. They know that for us, we are about to exit this world and leave for them a big mess for them to deal with. So now that they've shown us what should be done, why can't we do it? So I just appreciate you for even talking about it. I know there's a lot of work to be done, and you're already way ahead in terms of what you're doing, because a lot of people just accept whatever they're given and they keep quiet, which is also something I did for many years, but I feel that now is time where it's all or nothing. We have to protect Africa at all costs. We have to. That's my life. My life is sharing African proverbs every Monday to Friday in order to help change the narrative about Africa, and that comes at a cost. I could have been. There are many African people here in the diaspora that do a lot of great work. In this 1 hour that I produce this show, they've probably made a lot of money. They probably have big buildings in Africa, big projects. I don't have any of that, but I have the strength of my voice and my integrity. So the ability to just say what is in my heart is very, very important to me. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate everyone who has been watching and listening to our conversation today. I want to invite you to join us again tomorrow. This Friday is really special to me. We are reaching episode number 300 of the African Father in America podcast, and I think 300 is an important number. So join us, same time, same place, and we will have a really good time together. So if you haven't subscribed, give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't followed me on Clubhouse, this is a good time for you to do that, and we will see you all tomorrow. Vincent, thank you so much. Nigwedete muno.
thank you, Mona.
Take care.
Thank you.
African Father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javanokelo, live from Seattle, Washington.